Everyone. Welcome to the Ask Me Anything Career Switchers panel. I'm Cassie Breviu, and I'm a cloud developer advocate at Microsoft. I've probably been chatting with you in the Twitch channel if you've been hanging out with us all day. And today I'm super excited because career switchers and people that are self-taught developers is something I'm super passionate about. I'm a self-taught developer. I literally wrote my first line of code in Excel. And now I have a panel of people from a variety of backgrounds that are here to answer your questions about career switching, about how to get started, and all those good things that, people have already been asking in the chat. So let's get our panel. Awesome. There they are. And first, let's just start with introductions. And why don't you all talk a little bit about how you got started in tech and what advice you might give somebody that's getting started. And we'll start with iAsia.
So, hello, I'm iAsia. I'm a program manager on the Fast Track for Azure team in Azure CXP. I got started in tech because my first job was at a mortuary, and I felt like once I did that, I wanted to be somewhere where people could talk back to me.
Okay, and then let's move on to Sophia.
Hey everyone, my name is Sophia. I'm currently a software engineer at Breviu. I decided to make a career transition to software engineering last year in August. And so since then, I've spent about the past year learning full stack development. And last month in September, I joined Breviu as a software engineer. And yeah, outside of coding, I enjoy doing some indoor rock climbing and also baking sourdough bread.
Awesome. PJ.
I have not started in tech yet. I started learning to code in May. And if you're listening, I only need to give my current job 30 days notice if you want to hire a really handsome half Puerto Rican guy who's still learning how to code. But yeah, it's I'm just excited to be here. This seems like not a place I'm supposed to be at all. We're starting early with the imposter syndrome for me, real early.
All right. Danny.
Hi, I'm Danny Thompson. I am a software engineer. I learned how to code on my own and all that good stuff. And on top of that, I am a community leader of the largest group of developers in the Memphis area. I've helped over 70 people land their first jobs in tech. And one of my big goals is to try and bring as many tangible resources as I can to those that need it. And so far, I've helped give out courses, books, resources, and anything that you could possibly need to make sure that you are learning and growing. And the last thing that I do is I speak all over the world at events like this and boot camps, conferences or companies. If there's a way that I can help somebody, I want to be there to do it.
Awesome. And then Cecil.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cecil Phillip. I'm a developer advocate here at Microsoft. Originally, I'm from the Caribbean, born and raised, grew up little tiny island called Antigua. And, I started programming because, one summer I was at home and, computers wasn't a thing that we had in like high school and, schools and stuff like that. And, one day my dad brought home a machine and it had a bunch of books and I read some books and I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, this is kind of what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so I kind of had that, like a little bit of self-motivation to be, hey, well, I don't know where this computer thing is going to go. All the people that are around me are doing something different. Let me take a shot at this and try it out and let's see what happens. And here I am today.
Awesome. So when people are getting started out, a lot of time, they're trying to think, where do I start? How do I gain experience? And how do I get that first job? And one of those things about that first job is, do I choose a big company or a small company? And so what would you say about big company versus small company? What would be the kind of pros and cons of each one? And we'll start with iAsia.
So big company versus small company, I don't think it matters the company. I think it matters the responsibility. I would say just go for it. Get yourself a mentor. You need 3 types of mentors. You need a mentor that's been doing it for a really long time, one that's brand new, and one that's in a position you're trying to work to. You've leveraged those 3 different resources and you'll be able to learn as you grow, learn, and work your way into that next level. But as far as picking a company size, it doesn't matter the company, it matters the responsibility, because you can be at a tiny corporation working completely ridiculous hours, or you can be at a big corporation working comfortable hours, or vice versa. So do what works for you. What you want to do is be somewhere where you're being challenged.
That is a really good point. And the mentors thing is a fantastic point as well. And yeah, when you interview at a company, you got to think about you're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you, and finding a culture that will be a good place for you to start. Anybody else want to just answer this? Should I raise your hand if you want to answer it, or I can go down? Cecil, you want to answer?
Sure. I totally agree with what iAsia is saying. I'll give a little bit of a personal take on what it kind of was like for me. So I've been in the industry for about 10 years, but I haven't been at Microsoft for 10 years. I came out of college. I didn't go to Ivy League school or anything like that, and I started working at a university. Actually, it was my first job. And we didn't build applications that were used outside of the university, right? It was like the guy down the hallway was the person that was my customer. And I can tell you from working at a smaller shop and going out to a bigger shop, I was definitely in a place that, well, no, I didn't have a mentor, but that's one thing. But working at a smaller shop like that, I kind of had to do everything. So I was the business analyst, and I was the software tester, and I was the developer and the designer, and I did the UI and I did the database. I had to do the whole thing. You know what I mean? And then when there were issues and when there were reviews and when there were demos, I had to do the whole thing because the team was only so big at the time. And I think there's pros and cons to that, right? Like the pro is you get to understand the entire life cycle, right? You get to not just focus on one piece or the other, but you get to understand how the entire thing works. The bad part about it is that you get to understand how the entire thing works, and you don't really get to specialize. And we haven't spoken about it yet, but one of the things that we want to talk about when we think about longevity is specialization. You know what I mean? And at some point in time, you realize you can't do everything, you can't learn everything, you can't be everything for everyone in an efficient way. So now we got to think clearly about how that works. And so now, as I moved on to work at larger and larger companies, I started to become more and more specific about not only what I wanted to do, but also the jobs that I applied for. You know what I mean? And so now, now that I had that understanding of here's where everything kind of is, and generally speaking, how people approach the job, now I could be like, okay, well, this is the thing that I want to do and I care about. And so now not only am I going to talk to my managers about those types of opportunities, when I look out for advancement in other positions in other companies, I'm going to start looking for that as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Specialization and picking something is so hard, especially when you're first starting out and there's so much stuff. We went over a lot of different topics today, and that was kind of intentional to show you all the different types of things you could jump into, right? But it can be overwhelming too. So how do you think someone should go about trying to pick a specialization? Danny, it looks like you have something else.
To pick a specialization, I would say the one thing that I tell people all the time when they ask me, what should I learn to code? I always send them in the same direction: learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And it's on purpose. I don't necessarily think web dev is the number one route for everything, but it's hard to say I like backend when you've never coded backend a day in your life. Or it's hard to say I like mobile development when you don't know what mobile development is. I truly believe that education is a window that you can peer through. So when you at least have a very limited understanding, if you go on a website like freecodecamp.org and you spend about a month, you're going to learn the basics of HTML, CSS, and vanilla JavaScript. When you're in that scenario, now you can understand, at least on some level, some degree, what Python is, what backend may be, what front end may be. Do I really like setting up the front end of a website? Do I like the beautification? Or am I really intrigued by the problem solving? Or you could say, you know what, I really hate making buttons, but I really would love to work on an algorithm. You now have a better idea of what you're doing. But almost to touch on one thing that we were just addressing before, as far as big company, small company, for me, I came from the background of frying chicken in gas stations. So for me, anything would have been awesome, but I had a very clear vision of what I wanted, and I couldn't accept Splenda when I wanted sugar, right? I had a very clear vision of what I wanted. And I always had this aspiration to go work at Google. And I started working at a company that wasn't Google, but I ended up creating enough of a brand for myself that I went to go speak at Google. And I met Google developers. And the one thing that blew my mind was Google developers quit. Microsoft developers quit. No one is going here really and retiring. There may be some people, for the most part, people get sick of these great companies. So it kind of made me realize you can make a phenomenal living at Jimmy's insurance company down the street, or you can make a great living at Fang. But what really matters is, are you content? Are you happy? And do you feel like you have purpose in doing what you're doing? So it doesn't really matter if it's big, small, medium size. Are you getting what you're worth? Because let me tell you something, you are valuable, whether you realize it or not. You have a very special set of skills that people are willing to pay for. Stop discounting yourself, because if you undervalue yourself, don't be surprised when they undervalue you as well. You are valuable. So walk into these situations with that mindset. But I will say, if you're trying to get a job in tech, I have 4 steps to get a job in tech, especially if it's your first job. Step number 1, you have to have a very strong LinkedIn profile. I highly, highly recommend that. LinkedIn is more powerful beyond belief. If you need help with that, I have a whole series on it on YouTube for free that you can go knock yourself out with. This week alone, I got 3 messages from people that watched that series a week ago that are now landing final interviews and landing jobs. It's paid for itself long ways, however you want to look at it. Second step, you have to have a portfolio site. When you're a beginner in tech, your portfolio site is like your business card in tech. You have to have it. It doesn't need to be technical savvy, but it does need to be appealing to the eye, because the average hiring manager has never coded a day in their life. They have a set of instructions that they're trying to fill. If they see a site that looks appealing, they trust that site and they pass it on to a manager. Third item that you need is portfolio items on your website. This is where you shine. This is where you show your technical prowess. This is where you show your command of the language. This is where you show your code. The last item you need is a resume. You gotta pass ATS software. You gotta make it pass keywords, but more so than that, you need to be able to hand something over in an interview. And that's my time.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That is so true. Marketing yourself. And now with GitHub and Twitch and all these different ways, YouTube, that you can create a brand for yourself without, waiting to get the experience at a job. You can jump in, you can start contributing to open source. You can just start doing it like right now. You don't have to wait for someone to give you like the torch and say, you can do this. So that's brings us to another good question, is about getting that experience without maybe quitting your day job, because bills are real, right? You have to learn, you have to pay your bills, but you still want to learn and get that new job. So like for me, when I first started, I worked in building things that were relevant to my current job. I started automating my current job with macros and then learning from there. So what do you all think is a good way to get that experience while, maintaining your day job?
I mean,
PJ?
I feel like I'm in that right now.
Yeah.
So when they closed everything down for the pandemic in March or so, my whole school year went virtual. So we had sort of different expectations for students. It's a big shift for the kids. And so it became sort of, I feel bad saying this, my day-to-day got easier because I didn't have to be in a classroom for 8 hours. I could set up assignments. I would make a video telling the students what to do. I had my email connected to my phone. I had my browser open, so if they emailed me, I would respond immediately. Our learning management system is something called Schoology, and they could message me on there, and I would just field messages all day. But other than that, I wasn't actively teaching like I used to. That's when I started getting into coding, and I was coding 3 hours a day, and it was awesome. Now that I'm back to real teaching, which real teaching is still not real teaching, we're doing this hybrid thing where I'm in the classroom, but I have some kids that are on Zoom, and it's a lot. It's very stressful, and I'm also doing an AP class this year, so my ability to code has gone way down. What I do to try and balance what I'm doing at work, putting in, between 45 and 60 hours a week teaching, because I'm also, helping with the band and doing all these. Teachers never just teach. There's always other stuff. I set aside time. I'm not grading this time. That's time for coding. And I meet with someone and I code with them. I actually meet with Brandon Minnick, the code traveler who's been in our chat today, and I code with him. My first website that I built, the first thing Brandon asked me, he's like, well, you need to make something. What are you interested in? And I found poetry because that's what I love teaching. So my first project was a cross between what I love about teaching, which is modern poetry, and what I am learning, and taking something I'm learning and applying it to thing I love already. So that finding that thing that you can work on, that project, and I think other people have talked about this too, you have to have a project you're working on. Danny Thompson says it on Twitter all the time. He says, don't just learn the skills, do a project, figure out what you want to build and find a way to build it. And if it's in your interest, if it's in a wheelhouse that you already like, you're more likely to stick with it. So that balance, if you're working a real job and trying to code, it's hard. But setting aside time to do it and making your coding be related to a thing that you like and love already, I would say that's a great way to get started.
I love it. That's so true. Danny, you want to add something too? Yeah. Go for it.
One thing I'll say right now is that I just found out PJ follows me, so hire this guy. Definitely hire him. What I'll say as far as experience when it comes to code, I have 3 rules to become a developer fast, and it's ABL, ABB, CCC. ABL, ABB, CCC. Always be learning, always be building, code. Always be learning. Learn through multiple methods and mediums because no 2 teachers teach the same. You can learn 2 different perspectives and gain things on the exact same subject by using different mediums. ABB, always be building. Build. In tutorials, nothing breaks. It's a predestined road. In real life, everything breaks. Literally moving something by width and CSS will break a website. Build. Facing those errors make you a better developer. It's as simple as that. CCC, code. Let those fingers dance on the keyboard. There's no shortcut to success when it comes to development. You need to put those fingers on those keys and let them tap dance around and make something. It doesn't matter if it sucks. Make some. No one's curing cancer with a free code camp tutorial, right? We just need the practice to build up our repertoire of what we're doing. Now, when it comes to experience, when it comes to getting a job, I will tell you, I turned down 6 jobs before I accepted my first job in tech, mainly because I had a very clear vision of what I wanted, but I also am a firm believer in if I accepted something that was not what I wanted, I would have become too comfortable to go search for what I wanted. I'm not advising you to do that. I'm very stubborn in my life, and that's what I wanted. And it was tough to go back to a gas station and cook chicken when, someone just offered me a job in tech, but it wasn't what I wanted. But my advice when it comes to this is when someone has this requirement, we need 4 years of experience and we need a degree. Well, I had neither, and I still had them offer me positions because apply. Just apply. See what happens. Worst case scenario, they say no. You got the same answer you would have got whether you applied or not. Best case scenario, they say yes. Or at the very least, you have the opportunity to show them how valuable you really are. A problem that with a lot of people when they go into these interviews or have these phone conversations, they go in with this begging mindset. Please, I just need a chance. Please, I just need a chance. Just give me a break. I'll do anything for this break. Instead, go in with a value mindset. I am valuable. I will bring value to this conversation. I will bring value to this team. And if you come to me and you show me that you are serious, I will bring so much value that you can't turn me down. And I guarantee you, if you bring value, they will bring a checkbook. It's as simple as that. No company in the history of the world has turned down a surefire bet to make money. So come in with value and you'll get a paycheck for it.
That was super inspirational. Sophia, I think you had your hand up. You want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to add on to what PJ and Danny said about getting in a lot of practice. I really agree with that. And in addition, I think one thing that has been tremendously helpful for me learning how to code and getting better at it has been getting feedback from mentors and mentors who code, who are software engineers and code every day. I think one time I sent over a project to one of my mentors and I was like, hey, can I get your feedback on this? And he gave me a whole code review and made suggestions on how I could improve and what I was already doing well and should continue in. And so that's something that I've continued to bring to my job currently. So getting feedback from mentors is really important.
Yeah, which brings to a question that was in the chat earlier that I wanted to ask about how to find a mentor. And that's a really good question because I think that is a hard thing because asking for help, especially when you're new, it's kind of scary. So what would be your advice to somebody that's, they've came, they're excited now about this and they want to find a mentor? iAsia, is that you putting your hand up? Yeah.
See, so one of 2 things, you can go on the Humans of IT, the Tribute app. I have a lot of people who reach out to me for mentorship on there. You can go on LinkedIn, start stalking people in the industry that you want to go into and just reach out to them and ask them. I'll put it this way, if you have a company that you want to work at You want to know what the culture is of those people. If someone cannot or does not want to afford you the time to help you grow, then you probably don't want to work with those type of people anyway. That's
Truth.
simple.
Yeah.
But if you find me on LinkedIn, I'll respond. I promise.
Yeah. Yes, definitely reach out to us on our social. PJ.
So I stumbled into my mentor, luckily. But what I found is as I started following people on Twitter, more and more tech people started showing up. Techaria, Latina and Latino community in tech, seems to be a great community of people. Just follow like the big groups, right? Find the big groups that are talking about tech, and within that group, there's going to be people, and you just make connections. It feels hard to make connections on the internet because we're kind of used to like physical social strategies where you just kind of end up in a conversation with someone and, oh, we're at a meetup and I'm going to talk to this person. So online, if you like message someone, it kind of feels like you're busting into the room and going, hi, what's your name? What do you do? Can we talk? But there's such a welcoming community and such a diverse community of people out there who are all, I think what I've fallen in love with, and I wish I had gotten started in tech so much earlier. What I've fallen in love with is this tendency of people who have already started climbing a ladder of success in tech to turn around and offer a hand to literally everyone else that is just starting. I don't think I've met a person in tech who is like, well, I made it and that's it. Like the whole open source, like community, the idea of meetups, the idea of being like, we are better together than apart is everywhere. And if they're not like that, then they're not going to be a good mentor anyway. So getting involved in these groups and finding people to talk to in those groups that align with some of your other interests, like find them, get in there and just send someone a message. Just like Danny said, like, don't, what are they going to say? No? Sure. You're exactly where you are then. And it's wasted nothing except 140 characters in a message, you know?
Yep, exactly. The worst they say is no. That was one of the best things one of my senior developers said to me when I started out and I wanted to go to a conference. And they said, well, did you ask? And I said, well, no. And they're like, well, why don't you? The worst thing that happens is they say no. And I'm like, that's a really good point. Like, It doesn't hurt to ask. So we had a question earlier too about what a day in the life of a developer is like and a developer advocate. I think let's focus on developer. And I think, Sophia, do you want to start on that one? Since you're kind of in that new, like first year, you know, what is maybe some things that you've found about the day? So what is it like and things that maybe surprised you?
Sure, yeah. So I'm about a month in, so I'm just about wrapping up onboarding. And I would say typically my day starts with some code reviews that my teammates have tagged me in, and I'll typically spend about 30 minutes to an hour on those. And then afterwards, there may or may not be meetings. I think some teams, depending on what organization they're at, they have a daily stand-up. Mine is all asynchronous. So over Slack, we share what we worked on yesterday, what we are doing today, and if we have any blockers. And then the rest of my day usually looks like either meetings. Typically, I don't have too many, except for maybe some check-ins with my manager. Yeah, and then the rest of my day will usually look like coding, either fixing any bugs or working on developing any new features.
And what was kind of like the surprise? Was there like a surprising thing when you got into that role as the first role, or like something that you wish you could have told like your first day self?
Yeah, I think something that has been surprising is how little meetings I have. In my previous role, I was in a more team-facing role, so I almost had maybe like 5 meetings every day. But now as a developer, I sometimes like have 0 meetings or maybe just 1, and it's just incredible. Like I have so much more heads down time to just work and code.
Cool. Anybody else have any kind of, we have about, I think 30 seconds-ish left here. So any other things that you wish you could have told your first day self, or something 100%. That you wish you knew as a beginner? Cecil, you've been quiet. I'm going to pick on you.
I'm in trouble. All right. So I mean, since we're about to end, I'll leave everyone with this. And what I always tell folks is like, the reason you start is the reason why you're going to continue. And when I say that, I mean, you got to think about what's the reason that I want to learn to code for. Like, what's my passion? What's my motivation? Maybe I'm into medicine, or maybe I'm into cars, or maybe I'm into like, hardware, right? Like maybe that's the thing that got you in there. And then now you have that passion to start. And that's that same passion that's going to keep you going. I have, I teach, I talk to a lot of students. A lot of folks come in and they ask me, hey, I want to make a lot of money. I want to, buy a fancy car or whatever. And generally I tell them, I can't help you because like the motivation is not the same. You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta want to do something, because if you care about something, you got to do it. You know what I mean? If you care about something, you got to practice. I'm a big fan of sports, and so I like to use sports analogies. The best athletes in the world practice every day. Okay, they already have the job. Okay, they're already on the team, and they still practice every day because they want to be good at what they do, and they want to be good at what they do because they care about it and they have the passion for it. So if you have the passion to start, and if you have the passion to go into machine learning or security or web development or whatever the case is, always keep in the back of your head, like, what is it really that I want to do? And kind of just keep continuing to push for that and find new goals and new aspirations for you to reach for.
Love it. So there's actually a question, I think it was probably for iAsia because it was a military question. It was asking any resources for veterans that are trying to break into tech.
Yes. So there's a couple. There's a lot, actually. You can look at Microsoft has a Microsoft Software and Systems Academy, MSSA, and it's nationwide now. It's all online, but you can, Bing MSSA, Microsoft Software and Systems Academy, and those cohorts that come up, they have some specializing in CAD, cloud application development, Windows and server, cybersecurity, or you can look at Onward to Opportunity. And it's free. It's through the University of Syracuse in New York, but that's specifically for veterans and their family members. If they want to get, cloud application development, they want to get their PMP. If you want to get certified in AWS, any type of cloud certification or any type of tech certification. So those are two resources that I can think of right off the bat. If you want more, connect with me offline and I'll be happy to answer any more questions you have.
Awesome. Do I have more time? I think I have more time. So another question from Dax47 is, what do you do as a cloud engineer? Do you configure servers or code all day? Is it techno-functional role or fully technical role?
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah, absolutely. If whoever wants to answer, that wasn't directed to
I can't
anyone.
answer that.
So I'm a PM in the Azure space, in the cloud space, and I guess I have like a kind of like a PM/engineering role, because I can wear either hat depending on what certifications I'm using that day. But I mean, cloud engineers, we're customer facing. We are, I guess it's a mix, and it depends, because I have cloud engineers who do not code and do not touch code. It's more of like guidance and best practices. And then we have some engineers who are absolutely hands-on coding alongside with the customers. So it really just depends on the role. I wouldn't take the description, cloud engineers, a one size fits all, because it's not. You're going to have to actually dig down and ask questions about the role specifically.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so true. And even the same role, like with the same title, can be really different company to company. And that's why when you interview and you ask those questions, those are the things you want to find out, is what are the real like responsibilities. Sometimes the job descriptions are like not reality. Sometimes they're written by HR and they're not really written by the hiring manager. And so even if you think you only have like half the qualifications, like still apply, because they're not always very realistic. So definitely good questions. Let me see, is there anything else in the chat? Well, I have another question here. What do you think makes a good developer? Who wants to answer that one?
I'll answer that. I want to answer that because I feel like it's similar to the same answer I gave a little while ago. Right? A good developer is a developer that cares, right? I gave a talk earlier today on fundamentals of computer science, and I said, ultimately software is about people, right? I mean, that's what it's for. It's about the betterment of life of people. How can we become more efficient and work better together, and also communicate better together? And so if in the back of your head, that's what you're thinking about, like, how can I do the best good for society, right? Then, that for me is what makes you a good technology person. Let's not even say good developer. Let's say good technology person. Because in this field, like there's tons of stuff that you could do that don't involve code, that you could be very successful and very productive in this field. And so, you know, again, do I care what my customers are experiencing, right? Do I care how, you know, I don't know, I'm gonna build this app and like it kills my battery every single time. Do I care about my customer's battery? Do I care that everyone doesn't have a smartphone and doesn't have 5G? Do I care that my machine learning algorithm doesn't recognize people that of a certain shape and color, right? Like, do I care about people? So that's for me is what defines a good software or a good technology person, right? Like, can we really empathize and think about society as a whole and not just about the technology problem?
That's so true. It's like people first. And there was even some comments earlier, like about, I want to go into computers because I don't want to talk to people. And like, I thought the same thing. I have uttered those same words. Like when I first started, because I worked in a call center a really long time ago, and I was talking to people all day, helping them with their health insurance. And I was like, you know, computers sound like a better thing right now than people. But the truth is, computer science and programming is a people thing, and computers are second. You're building solutions for people, and people part is awesome. So like, don't get too caught up on that. But anyways, we need to wrap, and I want to thank all of the panelists here. Such great advice. Thank you for sharing your stories, your knowledge, and your experience with our attendees. And I hope the attendees found this useful. So thanks.
That was so good. I love that panel. That was such a good panel. So everyone, Twitchlings, non-Twitchlings, thank you so much for sticking with us today. Like we said before, we've never done an event like Start Dev Change. Usually our learning events are for students, and this is for students from all walks of life. So it's been wonderful to hear your comments, your feedback, hear you chiming in. It almost feels like an in-person event.
Almost.
Yeah.
It was close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Cameron, is my screen working, or is it still busted? Still busted?
Still busted. So we're going to interpretive dance our close.
So a couple of things. Remember, free certifications with the Cloud Skills Challenge.
Yep.
You can live stream. We're going to be live streaming on Twitch for Azure Fundamentals on October 20th at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And then we're going to live stream on Twitch for Power Platform Fundamentals on October 27th at 11 a.m. Pacific time. You can learn online, complete track progress, win certification vouchers tomorrow. Why did you tell us about tomorrow?
Tomorrow. Okay, so tomorrow is Power Platform Day here at Start Dev Change. So if you like the high code stuff, but you're curious about the low code stuff, tune in tomorrow. We start same time, same place, 8 a.m. Seth and I are back. Tomorrow we're going to have a whole new set of speakers, and they're all focused on the low code category. So you're going to learn to build your very first Android iOS app, your first chatbot, your first automation, a bunch of cool AI stuff, and you're going to do it all without writing a bunch of code. It's more Lego pieces coming together to build things rather than you going and like chopping down a tree and building it yourself. So both of them work. It just depends on what you're trying to do. So we just want to give you all the tools that we know of, so you choose which tool set you like and you want to invest in, and then go pursue the career of your dreams. Tomorrow will be very job focused. So in the interstitials, I will be actively reading you job postings that recruiters are pinging us and saying, yo, do you know anybody who wants this job? Like, we know lots of people. I don't know. So tomorrow will be all about how to prepare you and your friends and family to get all of these 10,000 jobs in the US in the Power Platform space that are open and vacant and looking for you. So tomorrow's job.
That is correct. And incidentally, we have something called Learn TV where we stream a lot of our cool stuff throughout the rest of the year. It's a pretty amazing stuff. I'm pretty excited to be here. One of the things we'd like for you to do, if possible, is send some feedback our way. How did you like the first day? What would you change? What would you like us to do better the next time? Again, we were hoping this was going to be a friendly environment where everyone felt like they could contribute from their knowledge and learn from others. If there was any problems with you felt you weren't included or you wanted to learn more about something else, let us know. We're happy to help out in any way we can. And Donna, you'll have the last word to take us out, my friend.
I think we've all earned a well-deserved rest, especially all the Twitchlings out there whose brains are now full of code information all day. Like, you should be so proud of yourself. We started the day with inspirational stories of why this matters. Then we graduated to, here's a whole bunch of ways to learn to code, whether it's web stuff or app stuff or whatever it is. Then once we were feeling like kind of stressed out and impostery, there was a lot of like, breathe, take deep breaths, this is normal, etc. And we closed out with real people who've gotten jobs in the tech industry by career switching into them. So I hope you feel that it is possible for you. It's been really good to see many of you in the chat chiming in saying like, this conference is making me feel like maybe it's possible for me. It's not maybe possible for you, it's definitely possible for you. And if you don't feel like it's definitely possible for you, keep hanging out on the developer Twitch channel, because people will talk you into it. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Donna Sarkar, he,
Seth Juarez, and the Mighty Pen.
and his Mighty Pen. We will both be back with you at 8 a.m. tomorrow along with the rest of our crew. See you then. Bye.
Take care.